Hey, it's Marilyn Devonish here from transformationstm.com. And just a very quick one before I get back to my Christmas movies. Haven't decided what I'm watching next yet, but keep an eye on my page if you want an update. Just to let you know, I'm running a live event to close out the year that has been 2020. So what I wanted to do, however, is share with you a piece that I shared with the attendees at the online Mind, Body, Spirit, Energy Fest workshop a couple of weeks ago, where I shared with them my intention list for 2020 and how that played out. So in September 2019, I did a similar process to the one I'll be taking you through in terms of the meditative side of it, in terms of what did I think the focus and the energy of 2020 would be. The information that came back, I'd say the words that came back were that I should focus on speaking and writing about remote and flexible working. Now, when that information came through, I'm like, duh, that doesn't make any sense. For those of you who follow me, you will know that I'm a coach, and what I have to say is a multidisciplinary therapist. I do about 20 different modalities. Started off with NLP, hypnosis, and timeline therapy, and HUNA. And over the years have had things like past life regression, future life progression, energetic NLP, DNA theta healing, access consciousness, soul plan reading, of course, the photo reading, and a lot more besides archetypal profiling, you name it, is probably in there. So I was expecting the thought, the inspiration, the information to come through would be to focus on one of those, maybe package them differently, etc. So when it came up with you need to speak and write about remote working, I was like, duh. Now, to put that into context, I have been a flexible working implementation consultant since 2003. So if you're watching this in real time, that's 17 years. However, I'd never spoken about it or written about it publicly, written loads of government white papers on the subject, built whole intranets for massive organizations, but never ever had I written and spoken about it publicly, which is why it then seemed to be like a really odd, crazy thing to say. However, as we now sit here on the 29th of December, the year 2020, we know how that played out. The whole world from March 2020 was remote working, was flexible working. We are still in the UK working from home. We're still technically in lockdown. We're now in what we call tier 4. So suddenly come March, when I'm on BBC radio speaking about flexible working and remote working, I'm like, okay, that meditation now makes sense. So I'm really glad that I followed it. My first article, I think it was for Personnel Today, about remote working and flexible working and working from home was published in October 2019. So a good, 5-6 months before we had even heard of COVID-19 or uttered the words pandemic outside of watching a Hollywood movie. And I'm going to show you the list that I showed to the MBS group. So this was my list. For what I had planned for 2020 when I sat and did this process. On the list was speak and write in the press and in the media about flexible and remote working, was to do more press and media articles in a wider context, was to speak and run workshops internationally. As I put it, when a friend of mine, Annika, said, so Marilyn, what's your plan for 2020? My reply was go global. And to go on holiday abroad with my lovely friend Gina. Some of you know Gina Batt. So that was what I'd planned when I sat and did this meditation piece in September 2019. Let me show you how that played out in 2020. Remembering that we went into global lockdown in March 2020. Let me just show you how it's played out. In no particular order, I'm just going to go with them as they appear on my screen here. This is a spreadsheet. Now, this screenshot was taken at the end of November, so it's already wildly out of date. And I literally just had an email from the Press Association a few hours ago asking, can I write a piece that they can syndicate? At the time I did this screenshot, there are, I think, 95 articles that I've written this year on subjects I had never written about before, largely. You know, there are a couple in there about emotional, mental health and well-being, but mainly it's remote working, flexible working, equality and diversity, leadership development, the psychology of how we think and how we work. There was an interesting one about, you know, alongside somebody who's an investigator for the FBI, about how do you know your partner's cheating and having, seriously. And there's over 100 things. It was wildly out of date when I did the screenshot for my membership group. I haven't added the latest articles, but there's over 100 that I've written just this year. And what happened in September, I was doing the planning for a new online program called the One Focus Challenge. Now, when I design programs, I always invite people on my e-newsletter list to test them out. So some of you tested, you know, the first part of that program free of charge if you're on my e-newsletter list. But before I did that, I sat and went through the processes, which is how I then came to, okay, what is the one thing that I think 2020 will be about, and what is the one main thing I want to focus on? And so there was that part of, that's how this came into being. I had to start the spreadsheet because the articles were coming so thick and so fast, I wasn't able to keep track of them. So there were times where somebody would ping me and go, oh, I've just read so-and-so, you're in this, you're in that, you're in the Metro, you're here, you're in the Times, you're in the Guardian. Or, you know, I'm saying, hey, I'm going to be on BBC Radio, you know, tomorrow morning, etc. It's like, whoa, I need to keep track of this. I'm so glad I did, because as I said, we're over 100 articles now. So that's how the writing and speaking in the press and media played out. Let me show you the next one. Here we go. So I said I wanted to go global and run workshops internationally. This is the fabulous TCCHE, the Conference for Consciousness and Human Evolution. I was the MC again this year, as I do every year, but this year, because of lockdown, we had to do it online. So I was introducing all of the speakers. I'm hosting all of the live Q&A sessions, managing the questions from the audience, doing some interviews with the speakers. So this is a snapshot of the speakers that took part. And I said to the TCCHE, I said, can you send me the list of countries that are taking part? Because then I was thinking back to this thing where I said I wanted to go global this year. They sent me the list and I sat and counted them because it wasn't in a spreadsheet. It was just like on a Word document. 44 countries. If that isn't going global, I don't know what is. And not only was I the host and the MC of the event, I also ran a HUNA workshop, HUNA. So seriously, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't have wanted to get onto 44 planes this year to run workshops. Anyone who travels for work and business, you know how much of an impact that can have on your time and your energy, etc. So from here, this very seat where I am sitting, and if you can see the pictures on the screen, you'll recognize the backdrop. It's real, they are real books. From this seat, broadcasting to 44 countries live, courtesy of the TCCHE. So that was it was like, whoa, okay, that's what I said I wanted to do. What else have we got here? Let's see. Oh yes. So there was one morning I got an email from a journalist saying I want to do a read back. A read back is when they read back the article. Can I do a read back? Can you speak today? And I looked at my diary and I said, well, I'm in Australia in the morning. I'm recording a podcast interview with an organization in Canada this afternoon. I've then got a breakthrough coaching client in the United States, and I'm doing a webinar for someone in London. And at that point, I just had to sit and laugh to myself because that week I'd done a client who was out in Dubai, did a soul plan reading. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's that thing. I said I wanted to work with clients internationally. And again, how I had imagined that in September 2019 when I was coming up with this list is of course wildly different to how it played out, but nonetheless it happened. I've also done interviews and podcasts with organizations in Canada, America, Dubai, and Africa, of course, as well as the United Kingdom. And I've got similar interviews lined up for 2021. Gosh, when's the first one? Roger Killin, the sort of a global storyteller. Well, let me just see if I have that in my calendar. July. So, okay, Will Polston, talking photo reading. That's going to be the 7th of January at 4 p.m. That's going to be very cool. That's the mayor, but you can't come to that one. Let's see, Millen Livis out in the United States. That is going to be on Wednesday, the 20th of January at 1500 hours UK GMT. These are all UK times that I'm talking about here. Let's see, I'm doing the TCCHE. We'll talk about that in a moment, 29th to the 31st of January. Again, that's going to be a global event. And Roger Killen, I'm doing that on Thursday, the 11th of February. He's out in Canada, I believe, and that's at 8 p.m. UK GMT. So it's already kind of continuing and shaping up for 2021. So that's how the, you know, working with clients and doing international stuff played out. Now, this one was super interesting. I went from doing a couple of, you know, first few articles as they came out, October, November, December last year. In March, and then again in April, co-authored 2 books, wrote a chapter on remote working for one, wrote a chapter on flexible working for another. So from sitting here in September 2019, 6 months before we'd even heard of, you know, COVID-19, if you're a scientist, you probably have done. But, you know, we weren't talking about COVID-19. We weren't talking about the pandemic. We were not talking about lockdown in September 2019. Life as we know it was normal. And in March and April, I co-authored 2 books on the subject that I'd had the intuition to speak about and write about in 2020. So those are both physical books. They're available on Amazon. At some point, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, what I'll do is I'll add the links if you want to purchase a copy. They are actually sat behind me. Let me just see if I can grab one easily. So that's the one I book reviewed. I've got a lot of books here. I'm a book girl, as you guys will know. Oh yeah, so this is one of them. This is unlocked. So we're all on the back cover there. So it's a real physical book, as you can see. Now, which one was this one? So that was a different one. Oh, there's so many. Anyway, the other one is here somewhere, but there's a few. Oh, I know what that one is. Cool. Yeah, I'm often getting Amazon deliveries here, and that's the one I reviewed and blew her mind with photo reading it for a couple of minutes and then telling her what the book was about, speaking to the author. Completely different subject. So they're real physical books, so you can purchase those from Amazon. So not only was I just, you know, not just, it's great, not only was I contributing and writing magazine articles. I had a really nice one in The Guardian, for example, about remote working. And as I said, the whole spreadsheet's there. Also co-authored 2 books on the subject. That was very cool. Oh yeah, so this is a snapshot. This was between making that decision in September 2019, the first article coming out in October 2019, and this snapshot was taken in March 2020. So a lot has happened since then, and I would need a humongous page to get all of those 100+ logos onto it, but had pieces published in places like The Guardian, Forbes, Up Journey, PsychReg, PR Moment, kind of the Chartered Management Institute, Personnel Today, the Mail, Huffington Post, been on the BBC several times in terms of the radio. So that's how the, you know, Image IE in Ireland, that was, I really enjoyed doing that interview. That is how the writing piece played out in terms of wanting to speak and wanting to write in the media on smart working, remote working, flexible working, and other kind of subjects that I'm interested in. So that, again, as I said, very outdated now. There's a ton more that would have to go onto that slide to bring it up to date. What else do we have? Oh yeah, I said I wanted to go on holiday, and Gina and I have been friends for 20 years this December. We met in October 2000. We have never, and we've done little short trips, weekend breaks, gone to events together, stayed in the hotel together and all that sort of stuff, but we never had a full-on holiday together. So we went away for a couple of weeks at the start of this year, thankfully, because we were debating, do we want to maybe go when it, you know, because it tends to get colder in the UK around March, April time. So we originally were planning to go you know, around March, April, then we're like, actually, no, let's just, as soon as Christmas is over, let's just get out of here. Let's get on a plane and let's go. So that's what we did. So when you guys were having snow in the United Kingdom, Gina and I were on the deck chairs sipping mocktails and cocktails and having pool parties. So we went to Gran Canaria in January 2020. So many people didn't get a holiday in this year. We managed to do that as well, as per my list. So at this point, you may have lost track of everything that I said. So let me bring you up a summary. I said I wanted, this was, all of this was planned in September 2019 using part of the process we're going to do at the free webinar. It's free for those of you in my membership group. Outside of that, you can purchase a ticket. But we're doing that this week on the 31st of December. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a moment. But in September 2019, I said I wanted to speak and write in the press and media about flexible working and remote working. That's got to be a big tick, particularly when you factor in co-authoring the 2 books. I said I generally wanted to do more press and media articles. There's over 100 of them that have been written this year, and many of them I actually haven't kept track of, because those of you who write for the press and media, you know you can write stuff. The journalists are really busy, so they just have to move on to the next story. So you often don't get notified when you're in the press. Google Alerts works to a certain extent, but if something's in print media, for example, unless somebody says, hey, I'm reading the Metro, I'm reading the Guardian, I'm reading the Times, you're in it, I probably don't get to hear about that. And I only put them on the spreadsheet once I know they've been published. So, you know, it's a big tick for that one, with over 100 that I know about this year. Speak and run workshops internationally. We're broadcasting to the 44 countries, courtesy of the TCCHE. Thank you very much. I love you. That's a big tick. Go global with the clients around the world. I've just literally finished a session today with a client out in Los Angeles. And the furthest afield is in Australia. She's just written a really lovely Google review for me. Feel free to go check it out. And going on holiday with Gina. So that was the list that I came up with. And if you see the list in the cold light of day and you know what happened in 2020, you would go, well, that's never going to happen. But it absolutely did. So how you set your goals and how you set your intentions, super important. It was probably about 15 years ago now, all contacted by a magazine, said, can you write an article about New Year's resolutions? They laid out what they were going to pay. I was like, cool, fabulous. And then I took a deep breath and I emailed them back and I said, yes and no. I said, yes, I can write it, but no, I don't want to. I would like to write an article instead entitled Why Goal Setting Doesn't Work. Because what I wanted to do is highlight some of the things that will derail people from the get-go, in the way that they think, in the way that they language it, in the way that they feel, in the way that they represent it. And people are often sabotaging themselves before they've even got started. And they thankfully came back and said, oh yeah, cool, okay, go on then, do it. And it was a great article. So the process that I use for myself is probably not the traditional kind of process that you use if you're someone who does regular New Year's resolutions. So in order to help you get 2021 off to an even better start, I am running a live webinar on the 31st of December. We're going to start at 4:45, so 4:45 UK GMT. It's going to be a live video webinar. And it's kind of writing and creating your new life script. So I'm going to take you through some of the process that I used in September 2019 to come up with the focus for 2020 being about remote working and flexible working. So if you would like to join me, the link is really long. So the easiest way to book your place is to go to my main website, which is going to be also coming along the ticker tape as well. But it's www.transformationstm.com. Trance, Trance, F for Freddy, so FORMATIONS, TM.com. So transformationstm.com. When you get onto the website, there's going to be a red button that says what's new. Click on the red what's new button. A panel will slide out from the right, and I've just uploaded a direct link where you can book your place on the webinar. If you are in my online membership group, it's free to attend. Outside of that, then, click the link, book your ticket, and on Thursday kind of afternoon, I'll send you the link for the webinar so you can kind of log in, so it's top of mind. Let me show you what that looks like. Here we go. So when you land on the Transformations website, there's a big red dot at the top that says What's New. Click on that. This panel, if you can see my mouse moving, will slide out. And then when you get there, that's the Transformations website, you will then see this picture or something that looks very similar to it. And there's a link underneath the picture to click to book your place. If you can't make it at the time we're going live, you will receive a replay recording. So join me. Something also that I'm really excited about is, for those of you who've been clients or attended some of my workshops over the years, you probably have heard me speak about Marianne Williamson. For those of you in the United States, you may know her now. She stood for a presidential election in the kind of the last election. And you may have also heard of Neil Donald Walsh. He's most famous for his book, Conversations with Millionaires. I am really excited to announce that I will be running a workshop alongside Marianne Williamson and Neil Donald Walsh and a host of other fabulous speakers. I'm running a workshop on gratitude and appreciation. It's a practice I've been using for over 20 years now, because I started using it before I even got into personal development, because it was just one of the ways that kept me sane. So I'll explain the premise behind that and how that came about and how I first started using it. And I will also share how it's transitioned today and the way that we use it in the Magic and Gratitude program. But what's really fantastic, not only am I going to be running my own workshop, I'm also going to be moderating the speaker sessions and interviewing these wonderful speakers as well, and handling your questions in terms of the Q&A. So really excited about that. That is taking place in January of this year. Hold on, that's the 29th to the 31st of January. So it's looking at the power of prayer, forgiveness, and gratitude. So if you need a bit of an uplift in your life, what I will do on Facebook, I will add this into the comments where you can book. I will add the booking link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. And I am so looking forward to taking part. And what's really, oh my God, whoa. Okay. So I just finished a breakthrough session with a client out in America. She set a goal, which, is kind of cool, but it wasn't like overly crazy, whoa. And she said, oh my God, it feels really big. And I explained to her that I found my NLP trainer's training notes several years after I'd become a practitioner, master practitioner and trainer in NLP and hypnosis and timeline therapy. The big goal that I had set for myself in October 2000, as I was preparing to then do a breakthrough session, did the breakthrough session in December 2000, was that I wanted to be able to speak to small groups and have the confidence to look them in the eye. So I'm explaining this, and I said, look, if you go to my Facebook page and you look at my profile picture, it's one of my favorite pictures. It's me speaking at Kensington Olympia, and it's an aerial shot. So the camera's kind of looking down on me on the stage. I'll find it in a few minutes, if I can pull it up quickly. And it's one of my favorite pictures to this day, because it is in such stark contrast to the tiny little goal that I held for myself, which seemed really big at the time. The reason I've just gone, whoa, is that TCCHE have used quite an old picture of me. That picture was taken not long after I started speaking to larger groups. But if you'd said to me, oh, Marilyn, you're going to be sharing the stage with Marianne Williamson, who you've been sat watching on the Oprah Winfrey Show, as it was called back then, I probably would have laughed you out of town in September 2000. So to now be sitting here going, oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to speaking alongside Marianne Williamson and Neil Donald Walsh, and to have spoken with the fabulous group of speakers that make up the TCCHE, which is an annual event that happens every single year, normally bank holiday weekend. So this year it was, rather than being 3 days, it was spread over 2 weeks, hence the number of speakers. But to be kind of going, oh my gosh, this is now what I do. That's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. So what can I say? What I closed with my breakthrough session coaching client, as we always close out the breakthrough process. Now, when we're doing it online and on the phone, etc., this one we did by Skype. We do it in blocks of 2 hours. So today was a final of the big chunk, and then we're going to do a catch-up session in a couple of weeks. But I always close it by saying, notice what you notice. We'll explain a little bit more about that on the webinar this week, because it's those things that then are the breadcrumbs that lead to the others. And I was sharing with my client this afternoon. Well, sorry, it's morning for her. It was 5 a.m. in the morning her time, 1 o'clock in the afternoon my time. And I said to her, when I first attended the TCCHE, I remember sitting watching Lynn McTaggart and Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton and Dr. Joe Dispenza, etc. And I'm sat there in the audience, and I just said to myself, I want to speak on that stage. That's what I said to myself. Lynn McTaggart signed my book. She wrote something similar in the book, which is uncanny because I discovered that 5 years ago when I was sitting down to interview her, and I brought the book along to show her what she'd written. But I sat there, and at the time, again, there was nothing that was going to take me out of that seat. There was not a clear path. I didn't have a plan. I didn't do anything. And actually, maybe I'll share with you how that did actually happen on the webinar on Thursday. Because the way it happened was so, you could just not make it up. To talk about synchronicity of the highest order, I can't even begin to tell you, but I will tell you on the webinar. So if you would like to join me on Thursday, 31st of December, if you can make it live, that's great. If you cannot make it live, there will be a replay recording. And those of you who do my HUNA sessions, you will know that the energy travels, whether it's an MP3 recording, a video recording, and even with stuff I recorded 5, 10, 15 years ago, people still listen to those recordings. And I get emails from people like, oh my God, wow, I've just listened to your recording, and this happened, and that happened, and this happened, and I felt this, and I experienced this. And I'm like, whoa. And it's recordings that I did like 5, 10, 15 years ago. So even if you can't make it live, chill out. It's cool. The energy still works. Actually, let me just find that one. And this is an example in terms of how it also works as a group collective, because people often go, well, if I'm not there live, how do you know what's going on? And this is just some of the feedback from the very first time I did just a 5-minute HUNA session. This was my first time emceeing the TCCHE. So this was about 5 years ago. And people were talking about the profound impact that it actually had on them. So it's super cool stuff. I will probably, I haven't planned to, but now I'm saying the words. We'll probably actually close with a round of HUNA, because that's what I do for myself. And that's what I did in September 2019. So we'll close with a round of HUNA. For those of you joining me live, remind me that we're going to do some HUNA. But as someone says here, I have to lean in a bit. It's a little bit, the print's a little bit small. So someone says, for example, I attended the 4-day TCCHE event a couple of weeks ago. And although I found the speakers fascinating, your HUNA work had the most profound effect on me. And what happened, and that happened again this year and the year before, people were emailing me after the workshop had ended to tell me what had continued to unfold from them. Someone else said, I did speak to you at the event, brackets in the ladies, because I couldn't go anywhere without somebody wanting to tell me about the profound impact the HUNA had had on them, and explained how I felt the energy around me and a sense of calm. But since that time, I am quite amazed at what has happened, because I call it the ripple effect. So that's the image that I have on all of my slides, which is the water drop, because this stuff is a catalyst. So the process that I did in September 2000, where I had the thought and the idea that the focus for 2020 was on smart working and remote working, the ripple effect of that is all of the things I've just shown you in the video here today. So fantastic if you can join me. Go to transformationstm.com, click on the red What's New button. Panel will slide out, click the link, book your place for the webinar. As I said, it's free of charge for those of you who are in my online membership group. Outside of that, book your ticket. Join us on Thursday if you want to create a new life script and head into 2020 with a different mindset, a different kind of energy, and safe in the knowledge that you will be able to create cool, fantabulous, amazing stuff, even if the outward situation, scenarios, and environment does not appear to support what it is you've been asking for. Because in September 2000, had I seen what was coming, it would have seemed crazy to talk about going global and working with clients all over the world, and, you know, speaking in countries and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Speaking in 44 countries would have seemed a little bit outlandish. So yeah, join me. And if you know anyone who could benefit from this, please feel free to share the link, share this video. That would be amazing. Thank you very much. And I look forward to working with those of you who are either joining me live or via the replay recording. Thank you so much for watching. Marilyn Devonish from transformationstm.com. Over and out.